what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about April Fool's Day from 1986. Happy April Fool's Day. This isn't a joke or anything. I think it's a horror movie most horror fans or cinephiles think about watching every April Fool's Day, and I've thought about doing a review of this literally forever. Every time I'm thinking about, well, should I do an April Fool's video? This is always something that comes up, and I was like, maybe this is the year I should finally do it. And so it isn't. That's sort of the end of the video. So I just didn't do it. Sorry, April Fools. So if you've seen April Fool's Day and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. Actually, the April Fool's is, I actually saw the movie. Sorry about that. This is an interesting horror film because sort of what it, obviously with the name, it's taking advantage of the Halloween thing. And it being sort of late, this is post sort of this, I'm not too post, but like the slasher stuff had been going on for a long time at this point. But it does something fresh and different with it that I think if you are into the genre itself, you will appreciate. But it definitely messes with you. The whole idea of April Fools is very much involved with this film, and I think it is very playful and fun, but also messes with your cinematic expectations more so than most of slasher films do. I think the most you really see is when the sort of camera is the killer thing that Halloween started. Sometimes you're not sure if it's the killer or not, but you know, most of the time it is. You sort of know what you're getting. This plays with the genre, it plays with the situation. It kind of shows you how open these genres are to kind of mess around with if you're open to doing something interesting. And April Fool's Day actually is that, believe it or not. April Fool's Day takes place on a weekend leading up to April Fool's Day, because I think April Fool's Day was not on a weekend in 1986. This came out right before April Fool's Day to like capitalize on the holiday, which is like what I'm doing now. So cool. This group of college friends, of course, are going to go to a cabin. Never knew any college friends who actually did that in real life, but in horror movies they do. So they're all going to meet at this dock, like it's Glass Onion or something. They're all going to meet up and go to this girl Muffy's house that is on this island and stuff. They meet on a boat, and two events happen that I think mess with your expectations of this movie. One is these two kids, and most people, I'm not sure if you necessarily know, but I know you know Thomas F. Wilson, who is obviously Biff in Back to the Future. And if you had seen this in theaters, it's very possible the last thing you saw him in was Back to the Future, because not only Back to the Future was a huge hit, it had just been re-released a little bit before this. So anyway, they're all hanging out on this boat, getting ready to go to this island. Two of them are playing with knives, this knife throwing game, and one of them accidentally stabs the other in the chest. Everyone's freaked out and upset, and then he pulls out the knife, and it is an April Fool's joke, and that's all funny and haha. But then directly after, there's a boat accident where someone is trying to put the line on the dock, basically, but he's kind of doing it in a dumb way, but he gets his face gets squished by the boat, and his face is kind of like destroyed, and he has to go to the hospital because he's in so much pain. And so immediately you are, while you're watching this, going like, well, wait, the thing that looked movie real to me turned out to not be movie real, but then this other thing directly after it, according to the reality of the movie, or as we understand it right now, is real. And you're a little like, wait, is that real? And so you have this aura of suspicion throughout the entire movie. Like, is this all an April Fool's prank? Like, is it not? Like, what's going on? Muffy's weird, you know, and they all go and they have a good time, and then when they wake up the next day, Muffy is very different. Things are strange. People start disappearing, and they slowly are getting picked off one by one, much like the Agatha Christie story, which is now called And Then There Were None. So, yes, this kind of comes out late into, I'd say, the slasher thing. The real boom was sort of over at this point. Nightmare on Elm Street had already come out, so it's like horror had already sort of not moved on. There were still slashers, but other horror stuff had come in. It wasn't as in vogue. And it is obviously, you know, you had Halloween, Then you had all the rip-off holidays, like Friday the 13th is one. Thanksgiving makes fun of that. You had My Bloody Valentine. And now April Fool's Day, which is, I think there's one about birthdays even. There's a lot of them. But this one, I think, is a different kind of movie. And there's a quote from the director, basically, that I saw when I was trying to find this movie about how this was different. And, audiences didn't accept it because it wasn't usually what they get in a slasher film, which at first, made me roll my eyes before I watched the movie, when I was trying to find a copy of the film. I watched it on Pluto, if you can watch it there. But eventually when I saw it, I sort of agree with him. And I think what happened, I had a whole difference of opinion by the time I finished the film. I was like, he's actually got a point. And I think the genre of the slasher film, you couldn't really make Halloween again. I mean, they did with Halloween 4, but that sucked. So I think you couldn't, you could, but you didn't want to, let's say. You could, and it probably would work out for you. But with April Fool's Day, this director, Fred Walton, who also directed the original When a Stranger Calls, and its sequel, and The Stepford Husbands, which I've never seen, but he did apparently. I think it is messing with your expectation to be carried away with the genre, and the genre is kind of, when it started, the slasher film was very straight ahead, like meat and potatoes, very refined kind of thing. This with Halloween, and it kept doing that. And this is what if we mess with those expectations? What if we play with you a bit? It has this creepy aura feeling because there's some stuff you believe, there's some stuff you're not sure where it goes, and not in a bad plot way, in a scary way. The score is really kind of spooky and haunting in a way that I think very few scores are able to do as well as this. It gave you the kind of distant idea that something is there and is haunting you. Music, of course, is by Charles Bernstein, and I was really kind of taken aback by it. I liked what it was doing. I sort of was surprised because at the beginning while I was watching, I was a little not even happy with the opening kind of fake out real thing kind of thing, because I thought it was you're not supposed to mess with that in a horror movie or a movie in general. And in this, it's your suspension of disbelief is sort of all over the place. I think the cast of characters are actually pretty good, particularly Thomas F. Wilson is a standout, but I think Deborah Foreman, who plays Muffy, does a really great job. It's very captivating. You sort of get why all these people would want to come to this island for her, especially when she starts sort of losing it. I can't really get into the ending and any spoiler stuff, and I don't want to. If you want to see this, I would say to experience it. But it is a film that will play with you, will toy with you. I heard this director was from Chevy Chase, Maryland, and or raised there initially and stuff. And this does remind me of one of my favorite films, I guess, Pink Flamingos. And when I think of this, I think it is not to that degree of disgusting and offensiveness and stuff, but the idea of toying with you. And I sort of enjoy that about a filmmaker who wants to sort of mess with you and mess with your expectations. I think most filmmakers, and particularly in the 80s, mainstream Hollywood-wise, did not want to do that. So I can understand a film like this that is playing with you and toying with you to a degree would not be as accepted at the time, which is unfortunate, and because it was so much about the kill count, and this isn't a very bloody horror film, the gore and stuff like that, and that isn't really what this thing is about. It's about playing with the structure and messing with your ideas and stuff. It's not about slasher stuff, but it's actually good at it. I had my reservations about this film going in, it's post the big boom of slasher films. It's directed by a director who doesn't have the greatest track record. His weird quote about the movie itself, all that stuff. But I still ended up really liking it. I liked what they did with each of the characters. You sort of get to know them. I don't think they're as well defined as the girls in Halloween, but I think it's an earnest attempt, and it kind of really works for it. I think it is better than it has any right to be, but the idea of sort of messing with you on April Fool's Day in an April Fool's movie sort of makes sense. I know various people worked on it have issues with how it was marketed and stuff like that. Part of me has sympathy towards them, another part of me is it's called April Fool's Day. It's another holiday horror movie. Of course, they're going to market it like a Halloween Friday the 13th. So I do have sympathy for them, but I feel part of it is this should mess with you and should be, I would say it's almost a little confrontational in in certain ways. Well, I would say it's confrontational in the nicest way. It's not necessarily a mean movie when it's all said and done. But I found this to be a really interesting film, and I think it is a good April Fool's Day movie. I mean, it's the movie called April Fool's Day, but it's a fun film to watch on April Fool's Day. It's fun to be messed with, fun to mess with your expectations and your cinematic palette. Come out of this and really appreciate the idea of a filmmaker kind of messing with you and toying with you in a way that like respects your intelligence while also messing with a fairly established genre. I think there's a lot of harder tightropes to walk to get this film to work as well as April Fool's Day does. And it's kind of a miracle it does, particularly at this point where you'd think the slashers would not be as great. I think he did a very good job. I'm actually kind of happy I finally got to see this and experience it, and don't let another April Fool's Day go by without you having missed out on it, because sometimes it's fun to get a little fooled, and it's also fun to get a little fooled with a movie that you're never really sure how much it really is fooling you. So if you have seen April Fool's Day and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.